6 to 8 inches. Pretend there's a dick between.
Wow.
6 to 8. We're not talking about Chris's dick.
It's like I could take that.
Smallest in the room.
Yeah.
I could say,
Just want to call dibs on that.
I know.
Just over here.
I know.
Really?
I know. I'm gonna have to remember
Stereotype,
to
really?
specify Chris's. The
All right.
we're in the. All right.
Go ahead.
we got to leave that in.
No, we don't.
What?
Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, bored to deathers, we are back with a super kick-ass guest, a friend of mine, and someone I've wanted to have on here since Luke and I really started kind of conceptualizing this a couple years ago. He's got so many things that you can add on his resume besides being a kick-ass person. An ultra athlete, incredible hunter, former NSA agent. That'd be cool to get into a little of that. But like I said, what supersedes all of that is the fact that he's just a kick-ass guy. My friend and ultra athlete, Chris Cameron.
Wow, what an intro. I hope I live up to that.
Don't disappoint now.
Oh, you will. You already have.
All right.
So, Chris, when we started talking about having you on here, I wanted to. One of the things that excited me about it was, like we've talked before, an ultra athlete that sort of changed how I train and how I kind of go about life, being that like I just kind of hit an age milestone in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which one did you hit?
And kind of had really like considered like, okay, how do I really attack, because I'm a really competitive person like you are, like how do I really attack that portion of my life now? What kind of things do I want to try that I haven't tried before? And the person in the book I'm talking about is Rich Roll, in his book Finding Ultra. And
Incredible man.
yeah, incredible athlete. Yeah, an incredible man in general, as we talk kind of off camera. And when we weren't recording, just a super interesting guy. And listening to that, like, it spurred me to go on and buy like the first like really nice bike I've gotten, and haven't done any like crazy races, but hit a few 30 milers a week and stuff like that. Yeah, and ever since then I've wanted to have you on it because I don't know, I was just really lucky and blessed to have someone kind of in the circle of friends I already have that does that.
Going through it.
Yeah. So I guess, and I looked up a bunch of history on it, and it's crazy. Like it goes back in. It's pretty interesting. The phenomenon that is ultra running, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you actually do it. I'm just an idiot that read a bunch of Wikipedia shit. So, so it kind of really wasn't a thing until around the 1870s, when everyone's friend Jules Verne wrote the book we're all familiar with. Disney's made a few remakes of a bad movie with Jackie Chan, Around the World in 80 Days. So that started kind of people thinking about this shit of going around the world. And it started in the late 1800s. A bunch of guys started planning treks to walk across the earth.
Really?
About 90, yeah, it was pretty cool. About 90% of them were complete hoaxes. But just to dudes just trying to scam, off the lack of media, and like, one town has no fucking clue what's going on the next because no Facebook. And but there are a few people that actually did it, and the only proof that we have of it is that some like random news, like they would start in, I don't know, Arizona or something, and some random newspaper in Calcutta would mention what they were doing or something. So you saw that they were at least moving from country to country.
Because how else could they have gotten it?
Right. And they probably had a little Jesus in them, because apparently they had to walk across the ocean as well. I'm not sure how that factors into it.
I'm thinking the Bering Strait was involved.
Yeah. Beringia or something. Yeah. But Shit, I totally lost my train of thought on that.
The Jew in him is like, this could never happen.
I
I
know.
love it.
No one walks
I
on
got
water.
him. And I thought it was going to be the Wazoo. The Wazoo.
God, I know.
Yeah.
As a man who bleeds purple and gold, just trust me.
He's used to King of the show, though. So.
I'm getting through this because in my mind I'm choking him. So
Nice.
it's
Fuck,
not in a
purple.
sexual way.
Fuck purple and gold.
Oh, Jesus.
Nice.
Crimson and gray for life.
You're outnumbered.
What was the Apple Cup score?
Yeah. Hey, we don't worry about that.
I'm sorry. What was the name of your drink again? The Go Fuck
Oh,
Yourself?
yeah.
I
We
feel
always lose the Apple
Chris,
Cup.
I feel like you're making a point. What is it?
We'll come back to it.
Coffee. So I was going on. Oh man, which was incredible because when they would do that, I think it was estimated, and still is estimated today, going around the world is approximately 16,000 miles. So these treks, it's not obviously something they were doing, in a few days, or because what I was looking at, some of these ultra races go anywhere from hours to a couple of weeks, or something like that.
Well, days.
Days, okay.
Yeah. So basically, the most popular one is a 50K, which is 31 and a half miles, or 31 miles, right? And then they've pushed it out to the Moab 240, which is actually 238 miles.
Okay.
And so now there's talk, humans pushing their limits, and the only reason they can keep going is because if someone else does it, then everyone does it, and then a pioneer goes a little bit further. And now they're talking about 500s. And so it's, they're thinking it's conceivable to get on a start line, ready, set, go, and 500 miles later, there's a person crossing the finish line.
Wait, like never stop?
Yeah, so, well...
Because in the Moab,
Moab,
some of them, there's break stations, and they
it's
sleep
on you
for a few hours.
It's on you. The clock's ticking. So, Courtney Dowalter, she absolutely just trampled the field. She beat the second place guy. All guys, girls, all ultra runners, world-class runners, and she beat the second place guy by 10 hours, 22 miles. So
that's massive.
Yeah, Joe Rogan had her on the podcast, and
really?
And he's like, he brought it to a point, and he's like, hey, so let's get this in our minds right? Everybody said, get ready, set, go, and this girl took off, and she took the lead, and then 57 hours later, she finishes 238 miles. And she slept for 20 minutes, one rest area, and then she fell asleep on the trail with her pacer for about a minute or two.
Yeah.
And she went through hallucinations on these super, super long ultras. I guess it's common for them to have hallucinations. She saw a leopard in a hammock. She saw a cello guy playing, and saying cool tunes as she ran by.
Which is kind of interesting because they're in just like some of my medical background and just some random research I've done before, the endorphins that that you get the runner's high that I'm sure is ever present throughout races like this. Endorphins are actually an opiate, so the same thing you might get from like doing a little too much heroin, you could probably get from running too fucking long.
And that's our ultra running secret. We don't want to know anybody. Nobody knows about it. So, but she basically finished this race, and Joe was trying to put it in perspective. He's like, hey, you had time to go home, shower, sleep for 8 hours, wake up, have a breakfast, come back to the finish line and say, oh, good job.
Oh, God.
And root in the second place guy.
Yeah, as far as like the distance between the next guy.
Right.
That is insane.
So, right, and they're finding out that women physiologically can handle the ultra long distances a little bit different. They're not to cause anything, their body fat is higher. Their pain threshold, because all these ultras are about limiting your damage during the pain cave. Everybody goes through what they call the pain cave.
Oh, I imagine if you can squeeze a child out,
maybe
you can deal with some shit.
Yeah. Kidney stone, that's my childbirth that I had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anyway, so if you limit the damage, like when you go into that pain cave and your body is starting to shut down, it's trying to tell you to shut down. And if you just keep going through it, and eventually the body says, hey, this asshole's not going to stop, so we might as well just start giving him what he needs to continue. And then you come out on the other side, and you can, I've ran in a 50-mile race, I've ran my second 25 faster than my first 25, and it wasn't because I was holding back. It was just your body starts getting into it. And I mean, who thought, we used to think 20 years ago, and they were doing this before 20 years ago, the ultra, obviously,
Yeah.
But everybody thought that the weirdos were the guys running 26 miles on the road, and then there was these guys that are like, hey, 26 miles on the road, let's run 50 over mountains.
Little did we know there were people that were much weirder.
Yeah.
That wanted to run. Yeah.
Right. So, but it's all about, the human mind. You know what? How do you push yourself? How do you do that? Because as far as I'm concerned, and I've won an ultra, but most of my races I'm in that top 80 to 85 percentile. I just know that if someone else can do that, I can do it. And I don't know necessarily that I'm going to be faster than them. But if someone can run 100 miles without stopping, I can do it. I truly believe that. And I may not be as fast as them, but I just don't believe that, that I'll quit.
Right. There's a few things I want to touch on that, from what you're talking about. First of all, that kind of thing that you mentioned, that your body, up to a certain point that you press past, your body's doing everything it can, because evolutionarily, everything that's made in our bodies and all the processes are made to protect us, make us feel safe, and keep us from dying. But at that point, up to a certain point, your body thinks it's dying, and so you're killing yourself, you're killing yourself, you're killing yourself, and then finally your body says, fuck it, and starts giving you the resources to survive. And it's like, and similar things happen like that. Like if you get your arm or leg blown off, because you're kind of sending your body into shock in a way.
But your mind says, if my arm is missing, I'm really messed up, I'm probably going to die. Yeah. But if your mind is telling you, hey, I had buddies that lost arms and they drug other people out.
Yeah, and it starts to shunt blood to the areas that need it in order to essentially keep you alive. So you're killing yourself up to a certain point, and then your body's just like I said, fuck this, and we're gonna get through it. And the mindset that goes with that is absolutely incredible, and you can't expect anyone to understand it until they have been through. And we talked about this off camera, right? An immense amount of adversity, because anytime you go through something tough, in order to kind of gauge how tough it is or whether you think you can get through it or you can't get through it, is based off something else that you've experienced. Right. So we both had, really competitive upbringings. We played a lot of sports, things like that. We both served in the military. So we've had some shit thrown at us. And that works out really well in our favor when we go into something stupid like that, where we can be like, all this other shit didn't kill me. Right. I don't know if this is any harder than that, so this probably won't either. So I can just keep fucking going. Yeah. And it's really cool. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say that one time Chuck Malinsky.
Now Chuck is another.
He's an
racer.
ultra runner. He in my very first ultra marathon, I met him. Big beard, mountain man kind of guy. Scary as hell if you didn't know him. Yeah. Him and I went 1 and 2 all day long in this race. And there was a kid there that was an All-American for BYU. I can't remember his name right now, but I mean, obviously a very talented runner.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
5K, 10K distances. So we're talking 3 to 6 miles, right? And he enters this ultra marathon. This is his first one, and all the talent in the world, all the training, and young, 23, 24, 25 years old, something like that. And then Chuck and I are up there in age. Yeah. I'm 47. I don't know what Chuck is, but he's up there. And
which is another incredible thing that, not to cut you off, but like you just started this.
I did. I'm in
you're already
my 3rd season.
like killing it.
Well, I don't know about killing
Let me
it.
brag for you, Chris.
No.
I mean, it from an outsider looking in, starting this like if just a few years ago,
Yeah.
and getting into
Midlife
something.
crisis. This is my midlife crisis.
Okay, and we'll talk in it because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask.
Perfect.
Is like
What started it?
like what crazy shit just fucking makes you decide to do this?
What traumatic
But
life
Chuck
event?
and I finished this race,
Yeah,
and this kid is looking at us like, how do you old guys do this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, over these mountains, through a creek. We had a river crossing with a cable that you had to hold on to.
Oh Jesus!
It's incredible. It's just a journey, right? And he says, I just don't understand how can you guys be that fast, you know, over the whole thing? And Chuck looked at him straight in the face and said, you know, you haven't paid taxes for 30 years. You haven't been divorced. You know, you haven't gone through a custody battle. You know, you haven't experienced all these horrible things in life.
Right.
So you have no idea when the going gets rough, you back down.
Yeah.
You know? And that's when we strive. You'll beat us until that pain cave. And then when that pain cave happens, we know how to muddle through it because we've been there before.
Which is and it's sort of those each one of those races individually. It's probably I mean the only thing I can liken it to is like when I try to I don't know do some fucking crazy lifting session or something like that with the injuries I've had. A lot of times that's difficult, but after a broken back, a broken neck, 7 knee surgeries,
right?
Sometimes it's that pain that helps you focus and actually get through it, which sounds contradictive, but it's but yeah, sometimes when you have more adversity and you've got through it, it's like you just get that mindset where you're like,
you
fuck
deal with it, you manage it.
Yeah,
and that's the great thing about ultras is that you can prepare like crazy for something, and every ultra race, something happens that you didn't expect, you weren't counting on, and so you just end up dealing with it.
It's sort of a euphemism for life. I mean, really, like
you're
kind of going through that life cycle in a race.
You don't know what your body's going to throw at you that day, right? You can train all you want, but the bottom line is you may have low sodium levels that you don't know about. You might be low on carbs. You might be deficient in something that you did not know about. And you have this nutrition. I have certain nutritions that my body responds to well. And I found out in certain races, we had one that was horrible, for the number 2.
Yeah.
Thing. And we'll talk about that later on.
But talking about shitting.
Oh, boy. And let me tell you, some of those ultra racers that I ran against, they got a full exposure when they came around the corner on the trail.
And I've heard that just from marathon runners that I grew up knowing that, like, it's not uncommon for them to just kind of go off the side and shit and keep
But that's
going.
in them, at least you have a little privacy on a trail. All these, most of ultras are all through the mountains on trails, Yeah,
so. And that was one of the things I was reading about in these ultras which is kind of funny because, 50 to 500 miles, that's not enough. We've got to fuck it up by throwing it up in a mountain, it's a crazy ass time of year.
Right.
I read about one that's in Antarctica.
Yes.
That's
yes.
It's $14,000 for an entry fee. So
wait.
Yes.
$14,000.
Yeah, it's a 100-mile race. In Antarctica.
I pay you.
Yes.
$14,000 so I can run
to have the worst day of your life.
So I can run across Antarctica.
Yeah, it's part of a series actually of races. It's called like the desert races, and the Antarctica one is the last one in the series of races. The race is called the Last Desert. It's a $14,000 entry fee. It's a 100-mile fucking race.
Beautiful.
I don't think you need to say any more than it's in Antarctica.
Well,
might want to wear a jacket.
I
don't want to judge anybody.
Yeah, judge. That's what we do.
I don't want to judge anybody, but if you decide you want to do that race, you have way too much time and way too much fucking money.
Yeah,
do something else with your life.
Yeah.
See, so that's what's beautiful about our sport.
Yeah,
how do we get there?
Don't do it for popularity. We definitely don't do it for prize money.
Right.
because there is no. I mean, I think Western states you might win some, you know, and you get sponsorships. But there's the only reason we do this is for us to go push ourselves further into the pain cave, keep pushing the limits.
See, I can get that type of endurance.
Right.
I can get what you're doing. I would never do it because I don't run unless something someone is chasing me. It's against my religion. But you know, I get what you're doing. That's your passion.
Right.
But $14,000.
I think it's
to
logistics.
Go freeze your
Yeah,
ass
it's
off?
mostly like it's because of the cost of getting down there. Like but yeah, at
With
the
all
end
the-
of the day, you're still paying $14,000
with all the clothes
to
you're
race this.
wearing. Can you even run in Antarctica?
Well, there was a guy.
Apparently, they do.
There was a guy that did pulled like a 500-pound sled across the entire continent.
Yes.
And he was on,
watched
I think,
that.
Rogan's podcast too, or something.
Yeah.
No, it was Antarctica.
Was it
Yeah.
Antarctica?
Yeah.
That was in the cold.
Yeah.
And he, because Antarctica is also one of the protected, I don't know, national heritage site or something or whatever, he couldn't leave his piss or shit.
Right.
So he had
So
to
bag
collect
it,
it,
bring it
and
with him, and-
bring it with him. So as his food supply got lower on the sled, got lighter, the shit and piss that he had to carry along with him kind of evened out the load.
Love
So-
it.
Yeah.
Work.
And it's again, it's like,
Where else can you come up with
and
this?
he's not making much money for that either. Like
No.
he got like some sponsorships by like a health bar company and some stuff like that. And that's also and this is an assumption I'm making, but why it's probably such a tight knit community because everyone there, it's like, and I'm sure you got like, you know, your egos and stuff like that. Like people are getting some need from doing this or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're all doing it because you just fucking love to compete.
Right.
Yeah.
And find where you can push yourself to another level.
Right. Because you will never know what you can get through unless
Right.
you just jump in the fire at some point.
Right.
And it's that's one thing. It's tough when you're having conversations with other people can't connect with that unless they've been through that.
Right.
And adversity is relative, you know, like I am not bagging on like today's generation, but there seems to be a certain amount of softness that goes along to that. And so it's like, with what I've gone through, I've got to try to make it relative. Okay. Like maybe getting out of bed to them is like the same as like,
Right.
is as hard to them as going through like a 30-mile ruck march was for me or something, and just try to like draw a parallel to it or something. And in order to understand that, like, okay, like
Really?
the best one I ever heard was on the last lecture by Randy Pausch. He was talking about, he was bitching to his mom about something, and she's like, honey, I understand. When your grandpa was your age, he was storming the beaches of Normandy. So I understand how your life can be hard right now.
Wow.
And he was just like, point taken.
Yeah. Right.
So it's stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's but really, really cool. And like I said, that's it's that desire to compete and that love of competition that unites you guys all. And that's, you know, that's.
And another thing I gotta say is that when you run on the road, like a marathon, I have so much respect for those people that do that, because that is the most boring, like, two-dimensional thing you can do. Like, your body is only using a couple muscle groups.
Like the only
Over
more
and
boring
over
thing would
and
probably be
over and
running
over
on
and over
a
again.
treadmill at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, just shoot me now, right? But trail running, you're going up, down, you got roots in front of you, you got rocks, you got creek crossing, you see elk, you see deer. I mean, it's just like, it's just constantly going on. It's like a video game going on in your mind. And the next thing you know, you look down, you've gone 8 miles.
Which is another
you don't
thing.
even know it, because it's an all-body thing. You're keeping your balance. You're going left, right, you're using your arms, trekking poles, whatever, when you're going up something steep. So you're drawing off your entire body, right? So it's so much easier in my mind going up over the mountains and through the smells of the pine trees and stuff than hey, let's go 26 miles on a road.
Which seems odd because it like on the road, it seems like you just turn off your brain and just be like. Bleh.
But you got to.
But up in the trails, you got to be like
you're
besides,
stimulated.
Yeah, you got to have all your faculties about you.
Right.
Like you're talking about like roots. Like am I going to trip?
Oh yeah, falling is almost
a wild animal comes out.
A given thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and then so my last race was in Canada, and 67 miles.
So you say that one more time.
67.1 miles, 108 kilometers.
The accumulation of all the running in my life
Double everything
would still not even be close to that. Probably the accumulation of the three of us.
So, and it had...
We've established King doesn't run.
Well, I'm saying like all of us together.
No,
probably have
still.
not run 67 miles.
Actually run?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, well, we're not counting sprints at like football practice because fuck that thing.
Yeah.
So 14,000 foot elevation gain. So it had six climbs. Six climbs over mountains.
Okay, so you're doing that because I think
so basically sea level to top of Rainier.
the recommendation from the medical recommendation is to go up like a few, like give yourself like a 24 or 48 hours between every 1,000 feet going like that. So say that one more time. You guys are doing that much of an elevation increase like in real time, like right then.
Yeah, it took me 15 hours, 40 minutes.
That is great.
So, and I finished
That's
sixth.
so your
not-
guys, sorry, Luke.
That's not 14,000 feet from sea level to top. That's total, right? That's like up,
That's
down,
total.
up, down. Yeah.
Well, it's not the down. It's the
just the
total
ups.
gain. So
The total gain.
So we were bumping anywhere from 3,000 foot at the start of the race to 6, and then we dropped back down. And we had another 6, and then we had 6 different climbs. So 6 into 14, whatever.
So you're doing that when like the demand for oxygen in your body is the highest it'll ever be, and you're in an area where the oxygen level is as low as it might be.
So the guy that I train with, who I think is the guru, I think he's one of the top. He is one of the top runners in the Northwest. JM.
What was his name? One more
JM.
time. JM.
Yeah, John Mark Smith.
John Mark Smith. Okay.
He's a beast, dude, and he sleeps in a atmospherically controlled tent. So what he does is he goes up 500 feet elevation every week, right, or every 2 weeks, whatever. And so that at the end of this season, he's sleeping at like 13,000 feet, 12,000 feet.
Okay, I've heard about these before.
It's like legally blood doping.
You know,
yeah. Ben Greenfield has talked about those on his podcast before.
So he's producing a high level of red blood cells, right? If I get this right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so basically, red blood cells carry oxygen to the muscles. The muscles respond well, and so the lactate threshold, all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
Without
everything increases.
being a scientist.
Yeah,
Right?
you're
So he wakes up in the
right.
morning, gets out of this tent, and it's like he's in this oxygen-rich environment because, we're in Yakima, we're at 900 feet elevation. But his body has acclimated itself like a Sherpa,
Yeah.
13,000 feet.
Yeah.
So when we go training in the mountains, he's trading stocks on his phone as we're running up these mountains.
Jeez.
And I am dying, right? Lungs hanging out.
Yeah.
And he's saying comments like, I thought Marines were tough.
Yeah.
And getting in my psyche. And so I'm going. And he's not even breathing hard.
Chris, you had something?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say,
okay.
for all my nerd friends out there,
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. I wear it proudly.
He does wear glasses.
Yeah, go fuck yourselves. But for all my nerd friends out there, this is the equivalent of in Dragon Ball Z when Goku trains in a generator that increases gravity, so he gets stronger.
There you go.
To fight, and that right there is badass and scary as hell.
So, yeah.
A couple things were clarified. Chris, yes, you are a nerd.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm kidding. I love you.
I don't tell you how to lift weights. Don't tell me how to play video games.
That's true.
And I train with a monster. So this guy basically in these ultras, if you want to win, if you want to place high, you have to be strong in the climbs. You have to be able to run up things that most of your competitors will be okay with power hiking.
Now, do you think you're in the transition into that type of running, do you think, because I know from as long as I've known you, you've always talked about like going into hunting season, you'll kind of do like a prep period where you'll do some crazy hikes like that to get used to the load, carrying the pack, all that stuff. Do you think having that hunting background and doing that, do you think that helped you transition into this?
Definitely. It's just like visualization, right, for the Olympic athletes, right? If they know what they're visualizing what they're about ready to compete in, so it's basically in your training block. I'd like to go like a 3 to 5 week training block prior to a race, and if that race is a elevation demanding race, then I'm going to put a lot of elevation gain in my training. If it's more of a roller and more downhill faster, then I'm going to put in quarter mile intervals in my training on the track. Sprints, more speed workout. Right. But if we go to like the 67 mile race in Canada that had 14,000 foot of vertical, I'm going to do a lot of hill training. Can we take a quick break? And when we come back, I want to get into the specifics of some of the training that you do, nutrition, diet. And from what I've heard, there's some pretty good stories from this 67-mile race you did in Canada. Yes.
And I want to hear them. So, guys, we'll be right back. You'll hear from our sponsor, Anchor, and they're also running a cool ad campaign on a bunch of charities going into the holiday season. One is a new commercial you'll probably hear from us if you're on any of our platforms. It's from the adoptapet.org. You can go on there and get they have a great selection of animals. You just type in your zip code and all the animals that are up for adoption in your area. They'll have links to the Humane Society, rescues, things like that. If you're looking to add to your family, like a dog, cat, anything like that, check that out. You'll hear it on one of our new commercials coming up. And speaking of that as well, the Hottest Foundation, which does that exact same thing in Queensland, Australia, and all throughout Australia as far as animal rescue. So check them out. Again, go to the Hottest Foundation at Hottest Foundation on Instagram, or Shannon Hottest at Instagram and Twitter. Thank you.
Yeah. KY is over.
It's overrated.
It's overrated. Is that from your own personal use, or
it's like Voodoo Doughnuts, right? Voodoo Doughnuts.
I was so disappointed.
They got on the Food Network.
Whoa! I was so disappointed.
I'm just saying.
Unless it's going downhill since the last time I've been there.
Hold on.
Are we getting this?
Voodoo Doughnuts.
About my donuts.
Is
were we on?
You got the video going?
Yes, we are.
Always on.
All right. So Voodoo Doughnuts is a whole step above regular donuts, and I am a donut connoisseur, right?
You think
Wait,
so?
Where did you go? That's important.
Like the OG one in like the
downtown Portland.
in like the
Portland.
butthole of Portland.
Yes.
But here's
It's
the
like
deal.
there's like,
Dude, if you think
like
that's
I
the
love
butthole of
strip
Portland, you've
joints,
never been there.
but
that's not the donut
it's
capital.
got like the dirtiest strip joints I've ever seen around it.
Hey, Mary's is the scariest place I've ever been. I thought I was going to be sacrificed to something. I didn't even want to go. We went for a buddy's bachelor party.
Yeah.
We walked in. Everybody working was wearing this weird blonde wig. And it was like, oh my God, I'm about to say.
Like was it a cult?
That's what it seemed like.
It felt like
Was this in northern Idaho?
No.
Oh, good.
Portland.
You're good then.
Yeah, we're still talking voodoo.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't say I didn't say I was going to get killed for being black. Just, sacrifice to
You're black. Wait a
Satan.
second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's crazy, right?
I don't see you.
Chris, we don't see color.
Oh, what
don't.
the fuck? Really?
Remember, we harvest animals. So we don't
Really?
kill them.
I'm kidding.
Really?
So back to the main topic.
Yes.
Blue Star Donuts. You said if I had anybody I want to do a shout out for, Voodoo Donuts gets on the Food Network. They do the whole thing, right? And and the whole place goes crazy about Voodoo Donuts. And Captain Crunch Donuts are incredible. I will give them that.
you.
Okay. But Blue Star Donuts, all the locals in Portland, they all know. And anybody in the world knows Blue Star Donuts is the only place to go. French brioche, right? Mm-hmm. Way above my knowledge here.
Brioche is not a donut.
They make it into heaven. It's not a donut. It's an experience. You have to believe.
But it's sold at a donut shop.
Oh my God!
We went to a Blue Star in Boise when we were going to.
Oh really?
Aspen? No, Vegas.
I didn't know they had a Blue Star anywhere else.
Yeah, and
you didn't like it.
I didn't have one because I.
Oh,
Didn't
your
have-
allegiance to voodoo.
No, I don't have allegiance. I'm fat.
It was 9 a.m. and he was very drunk.
So
he wasn't in the mood.
Blue Star. So Blue Star, they get all of their ingredients locally from the dairies right there in Portland.
Oh, cool.
They get all of their ingredients for the day, and they make up their donuts. And when they're gone, they're gone. They do not keep any of their ingredients from day to day to day. They go out
it's
the
kind of
day
like
before.
how what Porter's does barbecue here in town. As soon as it's gone, they're
Right.
done.
Yeah.
But they do not keep any ingredients from one day to the next.
Okay.
So everything is super
fresh every day.
They go and buy it. So that bakery will only be open till like say 11 in the morning.
Oh wow!
They'll be out, and then they'll go buy the ingredients for the next day.
I would be willing to try that
Oh, my gosh.
because again, I'm a fat kid and I like food.
I waited 2 hours for a $5 donut,
But Voodoo Donuts
God.
and
was
I would
my
have punched
first
a kid if you'd
experience-
have taken it away.
Was my first experience
Yeah.
with the bacon maple bar.
Oh yeah,
And
incredible.
So at that time, I was a fan of Voodoo Donuts
Yeah.
and Rogue Beer.
Okay,
You
Okay.
Gentiles and your bacon.
so try
You're
the
just mad because we can have
buttermilk cruller.
crawler.
Crawler?
Yeah,
Cruller?
Tomato.
Yes, exactly.
you should know.
I don't.
Anyways.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Amazing.
Are we still talking about donuts?
I go to Portland, I'm 15 pounds heavier when I come back.
Jesus,
Everything down there is awesome to eat.
it's nothing
Oh,
a
too far.
67-mile run can't take care of.
That's the great part about Ultra. So far we've covered why we do it. It has endorphins like being an addict,
Yeah.
and you get to eat whatever you want.
Oh my God, I can imagine.
Yeah.
How much do you eat a day? How many calories?
Is that what you want? Do you want to lead off with
No,
something?
my leadoff question is, okay, so we just watched a little mini documentary on how humans used to, literally before spears and weapons, would just chase their meal to death.
Yeah.
Because-
Pursuing hunting.
Yeah. Is that still a thing? Because you guys would just catch whatever animal you wanted. Obviously, you can't do it in the Northwest because it's just going to go hide. Like, you'd
Right.
have to be a super tracker
Right.
and a super runner.
And they did it barefooted. I don't want to do that.
You don't have to barefoot. But would you ever
Yeah.
go to Africa to do that? Like, if you went down there, like, all right, man, I
Try
spent
to
my
just
money.
run something to death.
Yeah, like, all right, you just follow me, make
It
sure
would
I
be
don't
kind
die.
of cool.
Would you do it?
Well, why not? I mean, you could say you did it. You could say, yep, I just outrun a wild animal. To the point where it just laid down and died.
mean, doing it that. I think any animal rights activist would have a tough argument if that's how you ended up hunting an animal.
Oh, they will have an argument.
They'll have an argument, and
Yeah.
granted, I'm an
They
animal,
always
and
have
I'm
an
an
argument.
activist for animals as well.
Yeah.
But if someone, but I don't like I love it how like you and some other friends I have go about it. It's it's a challenge. I would say if there's a way to do it, you do it. In my opinion, the right way.
Well,
like there's a healthy respect for the environment, and
huge
nature
respect,
and stuff like
and
that.
I think that's the most overlooked thing is that hunters get this label of somebody that's just immature out there killing animals.
Oh my God!
And it's not. It's a necessary management to the animal's herd health, right? If we biologists have done their studies, they've done their homework, and they said we need to, for the carrying capacity of this area, if they get a population that's too great, they're going to starve to death, right?
And whether you're
No,
a meat eater or not, like I've worked a lot of the meat out of my diet, but whether you're a meat eater or not, you have to understand that. The in a lot of the research I've done with this is one of the other things I advocate a lot for is the Wild Stallion Foundation, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that
they have a huge impact.
They are about 10,000 horses more than what I believe the Department of the Interior can determine of what the environment can sustain.
That's a huge,
and
hard
that will, if it's
thing to deal
overgrazed,
with.
it'll turn that area into a barren desert.
And we have the same thing with cattle. you know, free grazing and stuff like that.
Right.
So it is a slippery slope, and I just always yield on the biologists. The biologists go to school, they do these things, and they're on the ground, boots on the ground, and they're finding out what they need to do, and that's what we need to do. Not a revenue-driven
right. It's
thing
a
for
good thing.
selling hunting licenses. That's wrong.
They're the experts, and you're just going on their.
You're
guide.
wrong. You're wrong. You're just bloodthirsty.
All of us.
Yes.
It's
horrible. It's horrible.
And that's
I
usually.
thought you were actually going to say something important.
Yeah.
No, you're just bloodthirsty.
And that's usually what we get blamed about, right?
And you know what? You don't need to eat meat because you can get all your essential proteins from things like quinoa and soy.
Exactly.
So, I don't know
Because quinoa tastes so good.
Well, I mean, let's be
Right?
let's be nice,
honest.
because there is a dialogue to be had about this, but
huge.
like it's like I said, like if you're like a person like me, or even someone who's, you know, a vegan or something.
You're a vegan?
No, someone who was, and I do a few times a year. I'll go 30 days without eating meat at all, just because of the inflammatory markers I have in my body, and it is a blood type thing in a lot of cases.
Did you see the
by eliminating a lot of that? Like if my knees are getting really bad,
Right.
sometimes I'll eliminate that. But then the more research I've done, it's not necessarily the meat that does it. It's that I've been eating meat that's been factory farmed and fed an inflammatory diet,
Hormones.
which and the
Or
hormones,
whatever,
and when an animal who was fed an inflamed diet has inflammation in its body, and I ingest that also creates inflammation in me.
Yep.
Not so the case when you're eating animals that eat what they're supposed to,
Right.
which is wild animals.
In my family, my kids, they've grown up on deer meat, elk meat, and so they don't know any different. And to me, it gives me kind of a peace of mind that they're eating something that's a lot more healthy, higher in protein, lower in fat. You know, it's been cared for. I know what's happened because I'm the one that walked up to it, and I'm the one that caped it out. I'm the one that cared for the meat. I'm the one that processed the meat. So I know that what's going in their body is the right thing.
Right.
So I have a question.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and preface this with this. It's not a serious question, but this is something that I really want to know.
Okay.
Okay? So, ultra running, right?
Yes.
Lots of running. This is going to sound really gross, and I'm sorry to everyone listening and or watching. How many toenails do you have left?
So, good question. Good question. So, I usually
Can we
train...
guess first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you have 9.
9. I'm going to say
7.
2 at the most.
I'm going with 7.
I always have 8.
Always.
Yeah.
Wait, we need
The
also...
same. Okay, the same 8.
The same 2 I always lose.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Oh,
All right.
so you do have 10 toes.
So your
Just to
longest
clarify
toe right next to
Your
your
second toe in.
Yeah, second toe in. It does not matter if I go over 45 miles a week. My normal training is 45 to 60 miles a week. And I've learned that the first year I started this, I was reading a bunch of stuff, felt that I needed to be at 80 miles a week, right? And everybody's body is different, right? And so with our crazy work schedule, I don't get the sleep repair. I don't get the deep sleep needed to repair muscles at that point, right? So I commute to Yakima, so I can get in 6 hours of sleep in between shifts. And if I run, now I'm getting 4.5 hours.
So
at 80 miles a week, I was finding that I was actually going negative in my progression.
You're regressing a little bit.
Right.
The is this we're gonna okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad it works out perfectly that we kind of got into the hunting and the meat quality and stuff like that and the segue, and you're talking about recovery, because one of the things that
Huge
is really interested in me is kind of like how, because it's it's a game plan, from beginning to to the end of the race, of like working that game plan, execution, things like that. And so that obviously has there's a process that goes through that starts with like your preparation. And so like anyone that's listening or watching, like what is that? Can you kind of paint a picture of what that looks like? Like when Chris Cameron, you pick your race, how far out you start training, what kind of things, like what's your progression, what's your build up to that, as far as like, the distances you run up until like a mile, like the 67-mile race you did, your diet, your recovery, your training, supplementation, things like that. I know we had one conversation, I know, about some certain things, and then some challenges also, besides because people that are watching or listening, you got to remember this guy, and I'm imagining the majority of people that compete these, they're working regular, like 40 to 60 hour week jobs, and fitting all this in, and how you juggle that, how you family life on top of that. There's a lot of factors that go into this, and that's a lot of stuff that really interests me, because you hear a lot of people why they don't start something. They're like, oh, I'm so busy, or oh, I'm just a lazy person, or something like that. And kind of like hearing how you work it, because I always am amazed just with the schedule we have, like how people just have kids, let alone like work in a fucking crazy ultra running like schedule in there.
So you have to have a supportive wife if you're married, right? And you have to find creative ways to include your kids when you got time, right? And so, or make games out of it or whatever. So I just know that with my schedule, if it's in between work shifts, I need to get at least 7 miles in. Yeah. I can get 7 miles in. Usually overtrain, you're looking at, an hour.
Okay.
Right.
Now, is that just something that you do for maintenance, like in between races? Okay.
Those are base miles.
All right.
Right. Then you have to have a long run. Once a week, you have to have a long run. Long runs can be anywhere between 15 and 22 miles. Jesus. Right. And so depending on your what you're going to add for elevation gain and stuff, how hard they're going to be. I like to start 6 weeks prior to my first race, and then I have a race, an ultra, every month. I would love to have one every month. And what that is basically those races are you're setting yourself up to your A race. You're going to pick one of those 6-7 races a year as your A race. That's what you're really training for. Okay. You're going to use those other races as experience builders. You're going to go through different things with your nutrition. I use EFS, Endurance First. Nutrition, JM put me on it, and it's been great.
And talking about that, who, because I know some of the stuff when we talked, I had some suggestions for you, but there were some issues with your governing body.
Oh yeah,
who is that? I found
so WADA. There was one race where WADA didn't like. What were you suggesting? I forgot.
I can't remember if it was the.
If you said the name, I'd remember
Sir Moreland or ZMA.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but Canada's a little bit different, and so they were governed by WADA.
Okay, so is it a different when you? This might be a dumb question.
Different races.
When you race in a different country, is it a different governing body, or is there a different governing body for?
Well, WADA,
races?
World Anti-Doping Agency.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they do MMA, and stuff. Okay,
and so that race, Blackspur Ultra, 108, they are governed by that. So you just have to be careful on that. So there's certain subjects.
I think the one I was thinking about, when as soon as you said WADA, I was like, oh, okay. But I was thinking the
basically,
IAAF, is that one too? Okay.
Yeah. Right. So basically everything I take is just carbs, sodium. It's not anything like a performance-enhancing thing. It's basically what your body is going to be burning during the race, because these races are so long that you have to be fueling in or your body will bonk, is what they call it, and shut down, and you will be sitting alongside a trail. And that's the great part about it, is if you don't finish these races, there's not necessarily going to be anybody come get you.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to get yourself out of these mountains.
So you're not messing around with that keto shit or anything, like anything that would glycogen deplete you.
Right.
Would be the
right.
opposite of what.
However, there are several strong ultra runners that are vegan and different things, and they have plant-based diet, and they feel and their body responds well to that. You know, mine responds well to French bread fresh out of the bakery of Safeway at 3:00. They know me by name. After my training runs, I go there and I get a fresh
So
bread.
this is debunking a lot of stuff. It's bleached flour processed, which is
Carbs.
what most people say not to. But
Exactly.
I mean, if it works, like, can you argue with it?
Courtney Dowalter, she eats quesadillas and drinks beer and lots of candy. In fact, so much candy she's made herself almost throw up before a race.
Jesus.
And these are the three things. And she's the top female ultra runner right now.
I wanted to talk about, because we had a conversation
Yeah.
about what you were doing in Canada during that run. What do you eat while you run? Because
Okay.
these runs are long. These aren't marathons
So
where
some
you
people,
just have a little drink.
Yeah, a lot of people can do a solid food.
How long is your 67-mile run?
15 hours, 40 minutes is
So
what it took.
you have to eat.
Oh, you have to eat every 45 minutes.
How many calories do you consume during that?
So I take in...
That's a good question.
So that's my thing. I found out for my body, and this was the accidents I had with the pooping, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that later.
Exactly.
We love shit.
So 300
All we do.
300 calories per hour
So
is what I need to take in at least.
So
that's my minimum.
you did 4,500 calories that race.
Easy, yeah. And I burned more than
4,500 plus.
that. Yeah.
And you lost weight while you did it.
Oh,
Water
yeah.
weight, calorie weight, fat
Oh,
weight.
definitely.
Everything. Yeah.
Definitely.
So what do you eat? Because I know the answer. But
What do I eat?
Tell people what they give you at the aid station, because it blew my mind when you were like, yeah, they give me
Oh, it's
Coca-Cola.
incredible.
I was like,
It's incredible.
like flat Coke? And like, no, regular carbonated Coke.
Oh, that's the number one thing. It's in demand from the halfway point of the race till the end. It's
And
Coca-Cola.
well, after
So Tour de France,
yeah,
they have cans of Coca-Cola. I
After-
don't know what is the miracle part of it, but
I think I know, just knowing how knowing a little bit about cellular diffusion and things like that. The it's kind of a similar reason of why, if you're using a carbonated mixer with alcohol, it makes you drunk faster.
Okay.
Is the sodium bicarbonate and the carbonation helps drive it and bypass the cell wall, and so it gets that glucose gets into that glucose kicks up your insulin level and then takes the blood sugar that's already available in your blood, and the insulin is like a bypassing agent that helps it get through that cell wall. So all that kind of works in conjunction to get your glycogen levels up really fast. And so that, after Luke told me about it, I was initially like surprised, like, yeah, like that seems odd. But then after thinking about it, okay, yeah,
Right.
a super high sugary content that helps like hyperdrive it into your cells for energy. Like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Pro tip.
So
for the
usually
drunks
my
out
go-to
there and
things
the
are-
ultra runners.
are the EFS. It's like it's kind of a pasty type deal that you take, and it's just sodium. Has lots of sodium, lots of carbohydrates, different things. But it's a way it infuses in your body, so you're not taking solid food, because when you take a solid food, your body has to digest it, right? In order to digestion process, it needs blood. If you take blood and put it to the digestive system, right, then you're taking blood away from muscles. You take blood away from muscles, you get cramps, right? So you don't want to do that, right? So, but there's some ultra runners that they'd eat quesadillas and they eat whatever, but a lot of fruit based. You'll see a lot in the aid stations. You'll see a lot of fruit. You'll see just a plethora of things, watermelon, whatever. And I like to keep all my stuff. So basically, like, I will put it all in my bottles. I brought a couple of them, so I'll have these. And then my vest. So
you kind of hold
hydration
it.
vest.
Where is it? Right here, Chris, so they can kind
sure.
of see what we're.
So it's a very lightweight hydration vest. And
So
then
this is like a bladder in it.
So no, these just are my bottles, right?
Oh,
and they're
okay.
all numbered,
Okay.
right?
All right.
And so I'll have my bottles set up. Steve Kruger is my crew chief. So when I come into the aid stations, they have aid stations 5 to 10 miles apart, right? We'll have all these pre-made, right? And different things. Bottles have certain numbers, right? And the certain numbers will have certain calorie intakes for where I'm at in the race. So I'll come in, and instead of hitting the aid stations that these people have and going to eat stuff that I'm not sure what the aid station is going to have, if it's going to be out of stuff, I know my nutrition is dialed, right? I know that every 45 minutes I need to start taking one of my bottles, right? And then that bottle is numbered, and we've got it dialed in to where I'm at.
Like
in the
you're
race.
down to like exact amounts.
And I've found that out from my training on my long runs, those 16 to 22 mile long runs. I've experimented, and I've thrown this here and that's there, and do a lot of reading.
There's probably
and seeing
a lot of trial and error.
whatever. Yeah, because everybody's body is different, right? And so you just have to learn.
That's
right?
the most amazing thing to me is that your training runs are borderline marathons.
Yeah.
Oh,
and that's just like training.
Yeah.
And it used to be, well, and not ultra running's been around for a long time, but in my mind, because I'm not a runner,
Right.
it's only become popular recently in the last 10
Right.
years. But like when I first heard about it, I was like, whoa, these guys are their training runs are marathons? Like you're just training run. This is my training. I'm not competing. This is what I do to prepare for my race. And marathon runners, they're running way less to prepare for a marathon, and they're like, well, you can't run a marathon to train for a marathon.
And you're supposed to have all this rest after a marathon or whatever.
And you're like, no, that's I run 2 of those back to back, and it's
so
it's
after
fine.
a 22 mile, what I'll do is I'll take a bag of ice, right? Maybe 2 bags of ice. I put cold water in the bathtub. I put the bags of ice in there. I get down there. I put my hoodie on, get my cell phone ready, and then I just have my running shorts, and I get down in, and I'm waist deep in the water, and my toes stick out because my toes get super cold if I put them on.
Yeah, and guys, if you're listening, that's like it's similar. Cryotherapy is becoming really important.
Right.
This is the old school cryotherapy. It's what we did after football practice in college.
Right.
We're getting huge troughs of ice baths.
It is a game changer.
Oh
So
my God,
in
it's
about
incredible.
4 to 5 minutes, you go numb. Sucks, right? But you're on your phone, you're Facebooking, whatever, you're meshing, going through Strava, your fitness application.
You get through that first 5-6 minutes.
Right.
You're pretty
and then you're good.
much
You
fine.
stay there for 20, right?
Yeah,
And I get back out after 20, and then I walk around for a half hour, kind of let it, get back to room temperature, and then I leave the bath, and then I go back in for another 20. So I get 2 20-minute segments. The next day, I feel more refreshed and ready to run than I did before the 22-miler. Now, if I did not do the 2 ice baths, that next day, I will hit snooze.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Screw this.
It's amazing.
I did 22 miles Saturday. I don't need to do another 22. And the only reason you double down on long runs is if you're getting ready for a 100-miler or something. And that's what most of these ultra runners do. My body did not respond well to that. I ended up with a stress fracture in my foot. When I started going double 22s on Saturday and Sunday, after about 3 weeks, my bone structure, maybe because I didn't get the sleep reset, I don't know, I started to break down. So I started having medical issues. And then, like what they say all runners do is when runners get together, they talk about injuries.
Yeah.
Cyclists.
Share
Cyclists
war
get
stories.
together and they talk about how beautiful things were.
Yeah.
Because of the impact and everything, right? And also with trail running, you don't have the impact that you do running on pavement.
Yeah,
so when you're running on dirt and you're running through the forest, you don't have hardly any of the injuries. You don't have IT band issues. You don't have, all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, and mentioning that, like we're talking about, like the ice baths, that's something you can do at home. It's amazing for recovery as far as Chris was going on it. And even if like you went and like if you do it like in between workouts, like on your off day or something like that, it's kind of crazy because I think it was one time I came over here after doing the cryotherapy at it was Shape at the time. I believe now it's a great place that some friends of mine run, Chad and Lindsay Kirby. It used to be called Shape Tri-Cities. Now it's called Icon Fit. And if you're here locally in town, you can go down there. They've got cryotherapy, red light therapy, infrared saunas.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it flushes the lactic acid, right?
Yeah, it pushes
The
out
toxins.
lactic acid, but it puts your body in that fight or flight response.
Oh.
And so you produce a shit ton of endorphins also, and you get, like, when I showed up, I was hyper. Like it was like you're bouncing off a wall, like, because it's like it goes to like 300 below or something like that.
Oh, wow.
But it's only for like 2 minutes, and it so yeah, it's incredible. It does boosts like your collagen production, all this stuff that, like, 'cause when your body thinks it's dying, it does all this great stuff. You know,
Right.
so it's so maybe it's happening while you're running as well.
Yeah.
But anyways, the a great way to recover, and just I thought it'd be appropriate to mention them locally because we always like to support local business. That's
Nice.
Icon Fit in Kennewick, Washington. All right,
So
Chad
getting-
and Lindsay, thank you.
Perfect. So
Mm.
getting back to the nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So you get all this stuff, and like I said, you never know what an ultra is going to throw at you. You get all prepared for this, and you have everything dialed in like you're a scientist,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden something will go wrong, right?
it's Murphy's Law.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So like all the stuff that I do, like my EFS, honey stinger waffles, my go-tos, right?
Honey, what are these?
Honey stinger waffles.
Yeah,
Oh, amazing.
is this a secret recipe?
Carbs, honey. Honey is absorbed in the body
Right.
so much better than sugar,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you could just completely eliminate all sugars and put honey in, it's amazing.
And you mentioned the fruits earlier too, which like fruits
Right.
always gotten a bad rap, which from like the low carb people, but it's because of the high fiber content in all of fruit, it really actually lowers the insulin response of it. So it's actually ends up, instead of a sugar spike like processed sugar, like a candy bar or something like that.
It's absorbed more evenly. And
Yeah.
you don't get the highs and lows.
Yeah.
But you'll find out. So like in this 67-mile race, I found out that at 43 miles, I started to try to ingest some of my stuff, and I was throwing up immediately. Like my body just turned negative to everything, right? But I remembered that
At what point of the race?
43 miles.
Okay.
So I had run strong,
So you're hitting the back third, pretty
right?
much. Yeah.
I was running strong out of a race of probably 200 people.
Yeah.
I was in 8th place at that point, right? And I was trying to make my move, and all of a sudden I could not get calories in. Like I couldn't put Gatorade in. I couldn't. Water was the only thing I could keep down.
So you were kind of be able to tolerate some fluids, but nothing that would
Water
give you any
only, and
nutritional-
water is not going to give you the calories
right.
necessary for another 24 miles and 2 more mountain passes.
Because this in the sodium you're losing, and just to kind of explain physiologically like what's happening to Chris's body during something like this is, especially if you can't get any calories or maybe more or less importantly electrolytes, the sodium, besides that you're losing tons of it in the sweating process, it's sodium helps you retain water. It increases that interstitial space in your cell, so each cell holds a little more water, and without sodium that gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and so you're sweating out, and if you can't replenish it with like I said, with Gatorade or any other food, and you're just taking in water, it's kind of keeping you hydrated, but not nearly to the extent that you need to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So now at 43, all this stuff that I have gone through, I did 8 ultras prior to this race, and I was really starting to kind of panic.
Yeah.
Right. And my crew chief, he didn't really know what to do either. Right. And so they're struggling because they're just looking at other runners' crews and say, hey, this is what we got going on.
Yeah.
Our runner needs to get calories in. What are you guys doing? But I'd remembered that Costco, we had bought those mandarin oranges, and a lot of times I take those on my training run.
Yeah.
And they just, for some reason, they're like super good.
Uh-huh.
So I had a jar of mandarin oranges in the syrup. And I looked at my wife. I'm like, give me one of those.
Yeah. Let's try anything at
And
this
I
point.
started drinking the syrup of the mandarin orange
No shit.
jar, and it stayed down. So I started eating the oranges,
Yeah.
and everything was good. And then I had a cup of Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
and I ran the last 24 miles of that race on nothing but mandarin oranges and Coca-Cola.
That is so crazy.
And it was amazing. It's just like the color went back in my face. I started feeling good. I started charging. I started ripping off space. I ended up finishing 6th place. I was making a run on 5th, top 5 in a top Canada race.
And so you're doing this, and this is what number of races you've done it to this point?
So I believe that was my my 9th ultra.
Okay, so in
2
from
years.
0 to 9 races, you're finishing in one of the bigger races in the continent.
It was a good one. It was a good day. It was a good day.
I mean, I'll pat you on the back because I know you won't do it for yourself. But guys, if you're listening, like that's that's pretty incredible. Like to just start something kind of out of the blue and go on it, and in that short of a time to be that good, like that's pretty amazing. And so it's I'm kind of in awe like about it, because I've always been like kind of good at something. I've never been like really, really good at it. And so that's just really impressive to me. And I think it's
hard to know as an athlete, because ultra runners, I don't think, do it because they're competing against other people. The whole idea of an ultra marathon is to be able to manage what you're going through that you don't think you can do.
It's probably the ultimate competition with yourself.
Right. And so some of these races only have like 60 people in it. And those 60 people, there could be like 50 of them that are really not that good. Yeah. They're not that fast a runner. So then when you get I won Wallace Falls 50K. But there was only like 20 runners in it. Right. And there was no big named runners. So just your placing really doesn't really mean anything, because you don't know if you're racing against fast people or not. So my marker at Canada that made me feel good about it was there was 18 relay teams. Yeah. So there was 6 guys or girls on a relay team, because they didn't want to run all 67 miles by themselves. Yeah. So they split it up in 6 parts. I beat 12 of those teams. So there was only 6 relay teams that beat me.
So when you say relay team, so you're running by yourself. These people are switching out.
They're switching out
so
every
they're fresh
11 miles.
All the time.
Yes.
So you ran the whole race by yourself?
I ran the whole race by myself.
And came in 6th.
And I came in 6th. But if you put me in the competition with the 18 relay teams, I would have still been 6th. Or 7th. 7th. There was 6 relay teams.
That's freaking awesome.
So that was my marker. It was like, okay, there was 6 guys on that team. Yeah. Right, so, and what was funny was this guy passes me and he sees my orange bib number. Yeah. Because the relay teams are in pink. I don't know why, but he looked at my bib number as I passed him.
I know why. I know why.
So as I passed him, he looked at my bib number and he's like, "Hold on, you a solo?" There's a lot of good conversations that go on out there on the course. A lot of time to talk about things, right?
15 hours. Yeah.
And he looked at my bib number and he goes, "Are you seriously running this by yourself?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I didn't realize what he was asking. I didn't know his bib number, or color. He's like, "So me and my 5 other buddies," and this was towards the end of the race, "are gonna get beat by you?" I'm like, "Well, maybe. I feel really good right now." I just ate 2 jars of mandarin oranges. And I'm on a runner's high right now.
Fresh. I don't want to fuck up your day, but I think so.
Maybe. Yeah. Unless I fall down.
I mean, I got this. I don't want to say that you suck, but you suck. They gave you a pink number for a reason, buddy.
So this is, and I got to say, this is the last thing about the Canada race is there's an aspect to this race that I never had done. I'd done 50 milers. 50 milers can be done in the daylight. Okay? So I have grown up in the woods, hunted all my life. Always had a rifle in my hands. In Canada, of course, firearms are frowned upon. Yeah. Right? And so here I am in the Canadian wilderness. One of the requirements to start the race is bear spray. You have to have bear spray, right? Because there's that many bears and wolves. Yeah. Right? And so the last 2.5 hours of this race was in the dark. Pitch black dark. No moon, no nothing, headlamp. So I've got my running shorts. Yeah. At that point, and a headlamp. And I'm running down this trail in the wilderness.
And you smell like mandarin oranges and Coca-Cola.
Oh, boy. Yeah. And I mean, I'm at that point, I know what's out there. I know, being a hunter, I know that there is cougars, there is wolves, there is bears. And all those 3 things love to come out at night. And I am running framed up and just poised to pounce. Yeah. Like every shadow and every bush scared the living bejesus out of me. Right? And you can imagine these runners are all spread apart. Like when it's 15 hours and 40 minutes to run 67 miles,
imagine. Well,
you may not see another runner.
Yeah, you got finishing distances like you said, that lady at the beginning. Like
10 hours.
10 hours, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm running, and then the depth perception from your headlamp on the tree roots and the rocks, you can't really tell how much they come up. So you're high stepping, you're framed up, you're ready to just punch the hell out of something. Exactly. Oh, God. So, I mean, that last 2.5 hours was the most scared I've ever been in my life. So now I need a 100-miler. I've never tried a 100-miler. I want to do it. But after I check that box and get a belt buckle, because all 100-milers, you get a belt buckle.
Oh, cool.
That's the thing.
Uh-huh.
As soon as I get that belt buckle, I'm going back down to the 50s. Because I do not like to
done
run.
it and not doing that shit again.
No.
Yeah.
No. Like, I think I picked up 6th place only because I wanted to run with someone else. Mm-hmm. Right? And then when I got to him, I saw his headlamp. I was like, now, should I run behind him? Because whoever chases him is going to be coming from behind. Yeah. Or do I get in front of him, and then I'm the first one that runs into the pit of destruction, right? You know? Mm-hmm. So I didn't know which one it is. I just figured I'd run beside him, and then if something attacked us, I was going to push him into him. You know, and then run like hell.
No, I love this.
Hey, the guy's name was Monty McNeese. Great guy. Fire captain up in
I've never respected you so much more than right now.
Oh, God.
I want
Scary.
I want to keep on this, but I want to switch gears for a second and get into
let's go quick.
Something that is really interesting to me. Is, things happen in life that motivate us or push us in a different direction. Moving into ultra running is a big thing. So, like, I'm curious. Like, I know when I joined the military is because I needed like a drastic change in my life. Right. When I've taken on many other challenges, it's because I just need to pump the brakes, like something bad's happening. This needs to change. With that kind of stuff being said, like what was going on? What was going on in your head that this seemed like a good idea? Because 99.9% of the population is probably like, that's torture. Right. Why would I want to do that to myself? What's going on in Chris's life when?
So like you touched on it, we're very competitive people, right? If there's a winner and a loser, I'll do it. I don't care what it is. Yeah. If it's just flipping cards over playing war, I don't care. I want to win, right? And so in high school, college, second in state in wrestling, ended up a 4:39 mile in high school. I ran a bunch of 5Ks, 10Ks. I'd won a lot of stuff.
So a lot of athletic accomplishments.
So then after about 24 years old, right, I didn't have anything, right? You get into that parent, you get in that husband, you get in that career, you get into all these things, and then on my 45th birthday, I wake up and I'm 203 pounds, the heaviest I'd ever been. And I'd been talking about these stories and my accomplishments from 21 years ago.
You're like Al Bundy on Married with Children.
Yeah.
4 touchdowns and Polk High.
You're just like, no one really cares about that anymore, right? So I'm 45 years old, the heaviest I've ever been. I'm like, well, I used to run a lot.
Like I need to maybe start writing a new story.
Exactly. Yeah. I wanted to do something then. Plus, doctor had said my high blood pressure was going to put me on medication and different things. Probably because my diet's horrible. Right? Yeah. I eat anything I want. Right?
Speaking of diet, just as the fat kid in the room, I have to ask. Right now, I mean, you're drinking. That's some good old apple pie.
Oh, love it.
Has me a little twisted right now, but that's beside the point. But after one of these marathons where you have all your meals prepared, you have all this stuff, you're basically eating paste, so you don't deprive your body of the nutrients it need, nor take the blood in digestion. Right. After one of these marathons, what is your go-to meal? You're like, I want something good. This is what I'm going to have. What's your go-to meal?
Yeah, I have a bunch of bodybuilder friends that just go ham after their competitions. Okay. Yeah. And so what does that look like for you?
Here's another great thing about ultra running. Your stomach's so screwed up, you don't get to eat.
Oh, no!
Like, you're not even hungry.
Why is that a good thing?
It's not.
Like, I think it was like
it's not.
In quotes.
But when you swear to God, you would love to just eat like a Cinnabon or something, whatever you want, right? Pizza or something like that. And it's like your body has gotten to a stage in its performance that it shuts down all the other stuff, like that Moab 240.
Yeah.
Ocular degeneration or whatever.
Macular degeneration.
Macular. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Start to lose your sight. Mm-hmm. At one point, the pacer has
start
to
closing
help her because the body shuts down all the functions it doesn't need.
Yeah.
Right. And so it had been doing all this, and so you just really don't have an appetite. Like anything you want to eat, you feel like nauseous.
Not that I was ever gonna do this anyway.
Yeah.
But you've just confirmed that shit.
Yeah.
This is never gonna happen.
Next morning, I'm pretty hungry.
Yeah.
Pretty hungry.
Oh well, next morning.
Are you pretty good by
night,
the next day? You can kind of eat what?
If I take the ice baths,
yeah,
I'm good. That night, sleepless, very uncomfortable.
That's what I've heard. My my masseuse does. She doesn't do ultra running, but she runs a lot of marathons, and her boyfriend does a bunch of crazy trail runs. Like he ran from I think it's the Northwest Trail. It's for like Mexico up to Canada.
You're talking about PCT?
Yeah.
Pacific Crest Trail.
Yeah. Did that
amazing
over.
People do that. They're so interesting.
Yeah, it's. I think he did it over like a course of because he would do a portion of it and then he'd have to go back to work because he couldn't take a bunch of work off at the time. So he'd do a portion of it, then fly back down to where he left and start again, and then on and on and on. But that's one of the things she would tell me about with herself and him is I'd be like, God, you just like pass out after a race, and she's like, God, I wish.
Right.
But yeah, you kind of just lay there because your body is so amped
up. If it races on Saturday and it's a 50K to maybe a 50 miler. Sunday I have ice bath Saturday night. Sunday I'm walking around. Walk as much as I possibly can. By Monday I'm jogging again. Tuesday I'm running and training.
Jesus Christ.
And so everything's fine.
Yeah.
The 108K, the 67 miler, the truck ride home from Canada, 8 hours was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Just
sitting there, not moving, just letting everything set in.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, it was like 3-4 days before I could really start training again.
God, I'll bet.
So, yeah.
And that was like, what we had talked about. Personally, I was drawing some parallels because, like I said, Rich Roll in his book Finding Ultra, which is an amazing book if you guys are listening or watching and want something to motivate you to take that next step in life. I was looking at those parallels, like with you, just being at what a lot of people would say is an advanced stage for being in this race. But you pointed out some facts to me that some of the best runners the best runners are usually in that kind of 35 to 45.
Yeah, like 30 to 45. Yeah, those are the studs. And ironically, what's funny is most of these strong runners, Timothy Olson, Jim Walmsley, the top of our game right now, they're all former addicts.
Yeah.
So they have changed. They have traded one addiction for another. And because ultra running requires so much training that it's almost...
I think we're going to an Amber Alert. Yeah.
Local Amber Alert. It's a 1992 bounder if you're on the road right now.
Okay. So anyways, getting back to it, they've traded one. Timothy Olson was to the point where he was stealing horse tranquilizer from veterinarian places, breaking in and stealing it because cocaine and heroin wasn't doing it. Wasn't even affecting his addiction. He was to that point.
And this is why I will never be an ultra runner.
And so
because horse tranquilizer would kill me. So therefore, ultra running.
But think about it. These people have experienced the greatest pain cave there is, right? And the stuff that they go through, and so now ultras, that's child's play.
Right, and that makes sense. Having gone I've gone through rehab twice in my life. And that's one of the things that I think is why I found whenever I dive into something it's just like all in.
Right.
And one of the counselors I remember leading our group one day was kind of talking about that, like these addicts traded one addiction for another, is that you don't just eliminate behaviors. You need to replace them with something else.
Right.
So there's and that's kind of what I did with other things. Just got way more into beating the shit out of myself in the weight room,
Right.
or doing whatever else. But it's and that's important, because if that void's gone, because obviously, like, as an addict, that's like Luke and I were talking earlier about animals and humans, and like what drives you. Like the animals are like food driven, things like that, and addicts are very like drug driven, and all of a sudden you take that away, you got to give someone another drive, otherwise they're just wandering aimlessly, or depression sets in, and then you go to some really bad place. And
an interesting thing that my wife pointed out is I'm ADD like crazy, right? I'm
me
all
too.
over the place.
It's probably why we're really similar in our
Squirrel,
training habits.
Whatever. And so this running, what'll happen is after I train, I get like 4 to 6 hours of the most mental clarity, relaxed, focused than I'm ever. So
what do you think that is? Why?
I have no idea. I don't know if the endorphins that are released during the training or whatever evens you out, kind of calms you down. It's my Ritalin. I mean, when I get back from a training episode, I can actually concentrate on things. I can focus on things. I can relax a little bit. I think I'm a better parent. I'm a better husband. I'm not all over the place. I'm not easily agitated or irritated about things. I mean, it's just, I've got this just calmness. I feel so, I mean, I'm sure you had it with your workouts and stuff, but I just feel so much more at ease, after a long run.
And that's incredibly, because that's incredibly important. And what you pointed out kind of when we first started talking, how important it is to have a supportive partner that can conceptualize and understand that need and what it does for you. Because that's the thing. Like, I got off, because of training, I got off my, anxiety medications. I take probably about half as much of my ADHD medication as I normally did. And
that's a good feeling. I'm managing it the way I should.
Right. Yeah. The way you should, the way, naturally. And it's, you get through all that, like the stress, things that might make you like aggressive or irritable or anything like that. And it's just gone. And you can get that. Like, if you don't have a supportive partner, you can tell them, like, you can have that me if you want, but if you give me this 1 hour a day or something like that for myself, you're going to get the best version
you're
of
going to get a lot. You're going to get somebody you want to be around.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
the person that you deserve to be around.
Right.
And cause obviously, our significant others are amazing people as well.
Right.
I think I had one more thing. This is one thing, and we'll probably finish with this. Like, what is going through your head? Well, because it's
a lot of time.
Like, I mean, like, when you got 15 hours to go, I mean, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. I mean, like, what's going on?
So when things are going good, right, I'm listening to music.
Yeah.
I've got a crazy playlist.
But a 15-hour playlist? Like, what are there, 700 songs on that?
It doesn't last that long. Battery runs out, right?
Shit.
I need to upgrade my MP3 player or whatever. In fact, I don't even think MP3 players are a thing anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Grandpa.
Yeah, I know. So anyways, my playlist would scare you and every psychologist out there. It'll go from Adele to Five Finger Death Punch.
Really?
To Kenny Chesney.
That's my workout playlist.
You're talking to me, buddy. You want to see my playlist?
Exactly. Isn't that crazy?
It's like,
But it's cool because it seems like it's weird timing. In the race, there'll be certain highs and lows, and it's almost like the songs match what you need.
I'll do deadlifts to Celine Dion. Where does my heart beat now?
Right. Or Effervescent.
Sure.
Oh man.
Yeah, my immortal.
I love
just
me some of
something.
that.
Yeah. Just like something that would like you probably cry to in a breakup. But
I went through a check station when I was winning that Wallace Falls 50K, singing Adele at the top of my lungs. And I'm not a good
have the
singer.
voice of an angel.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm not singing very well, right? I went through the aid station singing Adele. I go out 6 miles. It's an out and back. I come back through, and I'm singing Scorpions on the way back through.
Which
and
song?
these people that were, huh? Oh,
Rocking Like Hurricane.
no, the Zoo. Right? That's
Which one?
Scorpions, right? The Zoo.
I think so. Yeah.
You know,
Right.
hey.
But all I know is that these people, this aid station, are like, that guy's bipolar.
The other day,
He's a freak.
I'm listening to my playlist at the gym. Not that my workouts are anything like yours,
Right.
But I go from fucking Tupac,
Right.
hit 'em up style to freaking Alan Jackson, where I come from.
Right?
You know?
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
But it's like, and it's like, and the playlist kind of takes you on a journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, because it's like, it's a roller coaster of emotions. I'm assuming.
Not just
that you go
emotions,
through.
tempo, just it's like
Right.
where you need to be in that moment. That's where it
And
kinda
it's
puts
funny
you.
because some of these ultras, they ban music because of safety reasons.
Yeah.
They think you get lost, whatever the deal is.
Yeah.
You can't hear animals attacking you. Well, here, newsflash. If a cougar's going to pounce on you,
Yeah.
he doesn't, it's
It's
not
not
going to
because
help
he's
you
not
if
an
you hear
Alan
him.
Jackson fan.
Right.
Yeah.
If you hear this cougar coming at you, you're still going to
I was
get
about to say, you're fucked either way,
Right.
buddy.
Exactly.
my God.
But then,
You just
so
know
that's
it's
when,
coming.
That's when things are going good. So when things are going bad, I immediately revert to, if things are going bad for me, things are going bad for my competitors.
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
And so this sucks, and I've slowed down quite a bit,
Yeah.
and I can barely move up this mountain. But if I can push a little bit harder, I know that they are going to fold.
That's a such
Right?
a cool mindset. And that's got to be,
Positive thinking, optimistic.
yeah. And you can draw
Right.
those parallels to, just how we work through adversity in life. Like if I'm what I think is rock bottom, if I'm struggling with something,
Yep.
if I'm going through hell,
Yep.
somebody else is too.
Right.
And they're getting through it.
My wrestling coach says it's when you're hurting the most is what matters the most in your training.
Yeah.
What do you do then? How do you respond? Right? And so it may not be fast and it may not be beautiful, but I can guarantee you when I'm pushing hard through my pain cave, I believe truly that I'm doing better managing it than the other racers.
I think that's
So
I think that's awesome. That's
I don't know.
probably a great place to wrap up too.
There you go.
Yeah, just ending on a great way to get through life.
Thanks for having me, man. I mean, it's just been a cool journey for me. It's just worked for me, and so I mean, God only knows what happens. I'm only my 3rd season, and now I'm hooked up with this crazy, psychotic training partner of mine that
Nice.
loves to get in my head, and so
I like
God
how
only
you,
knows.
I like you transfer that. Like, oh, he's psychotic. He's training.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're the one running
the
crazy one.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we're
he's
gonna have
training.
him on your podcast. I'm gonna talk
Yeah,
him
bring
into
him
this.
back.
Well, I want to also have you back after you do that 100-miler.
This guy is insane.
Yeah.
Oh, 'cause
And he
you're not.
pushes me every single day. I mean, he's constantly. He knows what to say nicely that gets inside my
So
head.
someone that gives you a hard time?
Oh my gosh!
Really?
He's my best friend.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm just
Hey.
hey.
And it all started because on Strava, on a fitness app, I didn't even know this guy. He does 5 Mount Clemenses, right?
Now, what's
in a row.
Strava? Tell
It's
us
a-
about
it's
that.
Strava is a
fitness
fitness
dating
app
app.
that. So I have a GPS Garmin watch,
Okay.
and I hit go, run, whatever, and
Uh-huh.
it uploads it to this cloud, right? On
Okay.
Strava.
Okay.
Automatically. So when I'm training, I know that my results and my speed and my distance and my
Are available to anyone that wants to.
They're going to go up in the cloud, and everyone's going to see, did I take today really hard or
Yeah.
did I dog it? Right? So you push yourself a little bit harder.
Accountability.
You know someone's going to see it, right? And then you scroll through this app, and you see all these people and what their performances are. And there's this guy, John Mark Smith, and he's just destroying these mountains. He's running up them like they're flat.
Yeah.
I'm like, God. And there's Mount Clemens, right? He goes from the highway to the top of Mount Clemens. He comes back down, goes back up. Some people spend an
He goes
entire
back
day
up on
hiking to the
same
top.
Day? He runs
does
up,
5
comes
of
down,
them
goes up.
in 5 hours.
5 summits.
Yes.
He goes up
Yes.
and comes down 5 times
Yes.
in the same day.
Yes. That's how we met. So I just commented on his Strava app. I'm like, what a beast.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, you should run with me sometime. I said, I would love it.
Yeah.
He goes, tomorrow, 7:30. I'm like, uh-oh.
Oh, I didn't think it'd be so soon.
I have a date.
Yeah, exactly.
What did I just do?
Yeah,
Right?
7:30 at night works better for me. Man, let's try this again.
We've been
I'll be
training
very
together
drunk
ever
then.
since.
Yeah.
He's one of the most gracious guys ever in the world. Although he loves to find ways to get into my head and push myself. Right?
So he's kind of semi-local.
He lived half mile up the street from me.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
oh,
we're
wow.
like, hey, where should we meet? I'm like, well, I live on Maple Way. And he's like, yeah, I'm just up the road.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something in the water where you live?
This guy is amazing. Yeah. So
Has to be in the water.
anyway, so who knows where it's gonna go? He's gonna push me. He's got a 100-miler for me that he wants me to do, and he thinks it's perfectly catered to me. What's funny is he yields to me on the downhill. He says I'm faster downhill runner than him.
Yeah.
But in an ultra, you can gain more time in your opponents on the ups
Yeah.
than you can on the downs. I've always loved to run downhill. I think gravity, my fatter body than his, just literally falls.
But it seems like
faster.
it's a little harder on like your knee. I know, like when I'm
There's
running
a
downhill or
huge
hiking
technique
downhill.
to running downhill.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
And if you don't have that technique, yes, you will get
Yeah.
more impact. You will get a lot more negative response. But I have a way that I run with my arms. It's kind of a windmilling thing that I learned in cross country.
What's your technique,
I was
Chris?
saying, just another reason for me not to run. Everything you're saying comes with some kind of fucking consequence. So, I mean, if anything,
The best part about running downhill is that you get to fall a lot. And when you fall, it's bad.
yeah. See, no, I'm good.
And it's always rocks and roots and something that catches a toe. It's a controlled fall.
I'm good.
Running downhill is controlled falling.
And just like in life, guys, when you fall, you must get back up.
You know what?
And you will always look around first
I
to see if someone
snowboard.
saw
See
you.
if someone saw.
I snowboard. That's enough falling for me in my life.
Right?
All right.
Oh, it's so nice to have this podcast. Now I know I never want to run ever. Like I was never on the fence, but I was always like, man, I'm a decent runner, but I hate doing it. But now I'm like, not running's not for me.
Fuck that noise.
I think the reason I run so good downhill is because I know how much time I lost on the uphill. So I'm trying to make up that.
It's that motivation.
Yeah.
Like, man, here I go.
He may be a better runner. He may have trained harder, but I can run downhill. Let me tell you. I can let her eat.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking in with us and listening. And Chris, thank you so much for making the trip down here.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for having me, brother.
Oh, hell, man, we love you.
Anytime. And,
So-
and we'll do it after the 100.
Oh,
Oh,
that'd
when
be
is that?
kick-ass.
I was gone drinking.
I'm sure.
After his 100-mile race,
When
that he's going to.
What
This
race
summer.
is that? This
This
summer.
yeah, it's going to be probably, depending on which one. So
What's
that's
the name?
another thing about it is ultrarunning is very trendy right now. They run through wildernesses, so a lot of them are capped at 200, 300 runners. And
To
there'll
minimize
there'll
impact.
I guess.
Okay, yeah.
And so 400 to 800 runners will apply. So it goes on a lottery
Oh,
system.
so you don't know yet.
I don't know literally what one I put in for Cascade Crest. That is the one that everybody wants to run. So if I get it, it would be amazing because it's an iconic race.
We'll be pulling for him.
So
And
yeah,
people
it'll
listening,
be
put out the good vibes.
exactly.
So he gets it.
So we'll see, and then I'll come back on and tell you just how horrible it really was.
You bet your ass you will. Bored to Deathers, thanks for checking us out. We love you.
Closing comments, Heath.
No, I've learned a ton today. It was so much of what we talked about is things that you can apply into your own lives to get through adversity. Like, you can be going through fucking anything, but chances are you're not going through something as shitty as a 67-mile race. And so the point I'm making is it's life is about perspective. And so if you can kind of take a step back and look at what you're going through, look at what someone else is going through, and be just like, okay, I can do this. I can keep putting one foot in front of the other. I can keep moving forward, because that's all that matters. Even if it's like a centimeter at a time. We talked about, addiction, competition, and that's all it's about is keep moving forward. That's the important thing.
When you think your mind wants to give up, just push past, and you'll come out on the other side better than you ever were.
I've been through a divorce. I'd do it again before I ran 67 miles. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, but you didn't go through a custody battle.
I know. Well,
that's the true
way
test.
Different.
Hashtag truth.
I used that in my job, in my interview.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, hey, I'm about as trustworthy as possible because my ex-wife's still alive.
And that's how you got hired.
After a custody battle, she's still alive. I have restraint. I have restraint better than any man in the world.
Yeah.
All right, ladies.
I'm good. I'm done.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you guys. Oh, actually, Chris, do you have anything?
Nope.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you guys again soon. Mwah.